ekam aksharam hrudi nirantaram bhasate swayam. Likyate katam. Hridaya kuhara madhye kevalam brahmamatram yaham aham iti sakshat atmarupena bhati hrudi vishamanasa chinvata majjata bhavana chalanaro atmanishto deham mranmayavat jadatmakam aham buddhirna tasyasyato naham tattata bhavashukti samaye siddhatma sadbhavatah oham bhavayuta kuto varadhiya drishtatmanishtatmana soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purno vibhati swayam. Soham spurtitaya arunachala shivaha purno vibhati swayam. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre for Learning, it has been our practice to select 2 verses from the work Guruvachaka Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal and read those verses. Each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by a practice session of 10 minutes duration of self-enquiry. After these 2 segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and practice of Atma Vichara are completed, there will be summing up remarks by Venkatesh Deshpande ji, and after that there will be Sri Ramanastotram offering Today the puja team is not here. So the verbal chanting will be by Vaibhavji and Pratnama online, and we shall offer ourselves by inquiring who is listening to the Ashtotra. In Bhagavan's immense grace, we commence today's satsang by going to verse 506, selected for us. The verse 506 is in the second segment, that is meditation on the truth. The first segment is investigation into the truth. Second segment is meditation on the truth. And the last segment is experience, the anubhava of the truth. 506 appears in the meditation on the truth. This is under the subheading Maha Vakya, the great saying. 506. The supreme reality is being, consciousness, bliss. It's a single hyphenated word. Being, consciousness, bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. The supreme reality is being, consciousness, bliss. For the most highly qualified amongst those who ardently seek that reality, in order to free themselves from the searing heat of birth, it is only through enquiry into the real nature of the jiva, which is indicated by the word thou, in that thou art, tat tvam asi, that the glory of liberation will be attained. The supreme reality is being, consciousness, bliss. For the most highly qualified amongst those who ardently seek that reality, in order to free themselves from the searing heat of birth, it is only through enquiry into the real nature of the jiva, which is indicated by the word thou, in that thou art, that the glory of liberation will be attained. The glory of liberation will be attained only by seeking the truth of the jiva. There is a note. This note, two notes are there. One from Sri Ramana Vidyopanishad by Sri Lakshman Sharma ji. The second quote is from Talks. The Vidyopanishad. Sri Ramana says that without making enquiry into the intended meaning of the term that in the sentence, one should make a quest of the truth of the real self, who is indicated by the term thou. So in that thou art, don't jump into the meaning of that, but investigate into the truth of thou. The quote from Talks. While speaking to K.L. Sharma of Pudukota, that is Pandit Lakshman Sharma again, Sri Bhagavan said, leaving out what is intimate and immediate, why should one seek the rest? The scriptures say that thou art. In this statement, thou is directly experienced. But leaving it out, they go on seeking that. Question. In order to find the oneness of that and of thou, that means the truth of thou we are seeking, so that the oneness of that and thou is realized, is it not? The Pandit is asking Lakshman Sharma ji, Bhagavan, thou, Bhagavan answers, thou is the inner self, immanent in all. In order to find the same, he leaves himself out and sees the world objectively. What is the world? What is immanent in the world? It is that. What is immanent in the world is that. What is immanent in you is that. All such ideas arise only on forgetting one's own self. If you see what is immanent in you, that itself will be realized to be the immanent in all and the transcendental too. All such ideas arise only on forgetting one's own self. I never bothered myself with such matters. Only after a time it occurred to me that men had investigated such matters. Sivaprakasham Pillai says, Bhagavan realized the Brahman without knowing the term Brahman. That means he didn't know the terms involved or the paths laid out, but he directly inquired into for whom is this fear of death and dropped all those which are subject to death in him and reaches the Atmaswarupa, the truth of thou, which is the truth of that also, directly in that one experience of self-realization. So let's go back to the verse. The supreme reality is Satchit Ananda. Satchit Ananda, we can look at it as it is one and the same thing. But for our charting a course to the truth, we can see it as a conglomeration or joining together of existence, consciousness, and bliss. The term most understood by the jivas, us, is happiness. That we are all agreed that we are seeking happiness. But what is happiness if you are not aware of it? I have shared some experiences in that. But let's put it much more simply that if somebody has all the riches and all the facilities, which is normally viewed as comfort, in the eyes of others, but he himself doesn't know for whatever reason. If he doesn't know that, then where is happiness? So happiness without knowledge makes no sense. And if that knowledge is unreal, that is, it exists sometimes but vanishes in some other time, then what is the use of such happiness and knowledge of happiness? So there should be happiness and knowledge of it, but they should be Sat. In fact, Bhagavan comes to the Sadvastu itself is conscious as well as the Ananda Swarupa. So the ultimate reality is Satchitananda. For the most highly qualified among those who ardently seek, let's stick to the ardently seeking. For those who ardently seek that reality, in order to free themselves from the searing heat of birth, the Bhavaroga is usually not realized to its depth because we have separated ourselves from the rest apparently, and we seem to be more comfortable as far as the worldly situation is concerned. But then when one starts inquiring, any born being is bound to find suffering because of its very limitation. One of the ways in which Sri Krishna explains that is because we are identified with the lower selves. Lower selves in Krishna is the intellect, the mind, the breath, and the body. Because we identify with them and don't know the truth of ourselves, we are always measurable, we are always limited. And when we are measurable and limited, we always feel discontented. What happens when we are discontented? We get desires. So desire is the root cause of all misery because we feel something outside of us is going to come and satisfy us. So how do we get desires? Not because objects are there. We desire, let's say, to saturate a situation in the organization, not because the organization is like that, but you feel that you are identified with the mind or intellect. Now that is the root of the misery. That is, all these are born entities. So when you identified with any of those, objects subject to birth and death, then you are in Bhavaroga. Very quickly we will find that what was held is plucked away. So that is the searing heat of birth. You feel that you have it in hand, and suddenly some blood vessel bursts or something happens, and that seems to be plucked away from us. So that's why it's related here as to free ourselves from the searing heat of birth. It is only through the enquiry into the real nature of the jiva. The content, the heart of this verse is, how do we find ourselves liberated into the Satchitananda? Not by inquiring into the Mahavakya, Tattvamasi, the Tat part, but inquiring into Tvam, the thou, that is, who am I? What is the truth of me? As in Ulladu Narpadu, verse 8, Bhagavan says, Eppeyaritte Evuruvil Ethinum, Apper Uruvil, Apporulai Kanvali Adu Ayinum, the key part, Ammeipporulin Unmayil, Tan Unmayai, Orde, Odungi, Undrudale, Unmayil, Kanal, Or. Meipporulin Unmayil. The Tattva, the truth of the Tattva is given. Now you don't need to create the permeated existence of the Supreme in the world. It's already permeated. The world is already permeated. So what prevents us from seeing that? It is because we have identified with the temporal being. So therefore, the correction is not needed there. The correction is needed here to find out who we are. So where is the correction best attended? Even indirectly, you engage in the world, you come to dharma, you come to bhakti, you come to various meditations, but all those are indirectly only correcting you, correcting only who you are, your understanding about who you are. Therefore, Bhagavan clarifies that don't worry about how God permeates the world. Only look to what is your truth. When you understand that you are full of bliss, that you are full of the consciousness which is aware of its fullness of bliss, you are that true existence which is also the awareness and the ananda, then you don't need to look outside. It is all bliss. When something else is there only, the whole of the sensory area, which we call as sensory area, is only bliss. Only if you separate it with the sensory observation, it is something other. That is the Bhakti Marga, how they worship God as bliss. You clearly understand in Atma Uchara that when everything is bliss, that is how they are surrendered to the God who is bliss and who has permeated all creation. But we are not able to see that bliss with these eyes. Experience it inside as the Satchitananda, then you don't need to use any of the upadhis. You don't need to come out of yourself. That fullness of bliss, everything is bliss. Sarvam Brahmamayam, Sarvam Anandamayam. And that is the liberation from birth. Because when we come to Sarvam, then there is no birth and death. Buddha comes to Sarvam through sorrow. Birth is sorrow, growth is sorrow, illness is sorrow, death is sorrow. But when everything is sorrow, you are full of bliss, he says. When Sarvam Dukkhamayam, you are full of bliss. Here, directly go to, don't worry whether the world is Dukkhamayam or Anandamayam. You see that you are not having a division in you. You are the fullness of the self. When you are the fullness of the self, everything is full of bliss, full of consciousness, full of true existence. So let's sit and practice Atma Ucharam, the Brahmastram, which corrects the Tvam, so that the Tat, the oneness of Tat and Tvam, is directly experienced. Paroksha Anubhuti. Let's sit in Atma Vicharam for the next 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you will help us out. Namo Ramana, sir.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by going to the second verse selected for us by Revatima. It's verse number 1252. Obviously, it is in the experience segment. Verse number 1252. The subheading, the state of equipoise. The state of equipoise. Like the clear water that shines in a mirage or mirage, I don't know the pronunciation. Like the clear water that shines in a mirage in the searing sunshine, the world is a deception that appears in the unmanifest void. Like the clear water that shines in a mirage in the searing, there is only the sunshine, which is that hot vapor is there, but then it appears as water. Similarly, the world is a deception that appears in the unmanifest void. Therefore, to the true jnani who is not deluded into believing that a life of prosperity which is under the control of prarabdha is real, a life of adversity would also be a matter of great joy. And read the second sentence again. Therefore, when one understands that the objective world and its contents is only a mirage appearing in the unmanifest void, what it is, we'll try and see. Once you realize that, the true jnani who is not deluded into believing that a life of prosperity which is under the control of prarabdha is real, he is not deluded. I have recounted that experience of traveling in train from Trichy, and then that was a night train. 9 o'clock or so we had got in Trichy, and around 1:32 it had come to Erode, and the family got in. There was about a 65-year-old gentleman, the son and daughter-in-law. I did not see them get in at Erode, as I was in the upper berth. But there was some noise in the corridor, so I got down, and the gentleman was not behaving appropriately, that 65-year-old person. And when he settled down a little bit, I asked his son, and I was told that he was an engineer who knew 7 languages, and from their luggage I could understand that they were quite well to do, and they were coming to Nimhans because that gentleman had had 2 days of brain fever. Just the brain fever had dislocated his consciousness from his memory bank, and he could not know that he had this worldly prosperity at his disposal. He could not sign a check. He did not know what was his knowledge, or that he had bank accounts. Just 2 days back also, another well-to-do person, 60-year-old person, without any outward indications, just one blood vessel near the heart it burst, and it was told it's 1 in a million probability in the hospital. But where is the guarantee that you are not 1 in a million in that? Therefore, the jnani who is aware of the Damocles sword is never carried away by the apparent, even middle class life or upper middle class life or rich life. Never deluded, because that is part of prarabdha. We have seen that Bhagavan says to Devaraj Mudaliar, that is all fixed. And even science is finding out that what you see with the eyes is already what is in the past. That means it is scripted. So whatever is in the sensory world, the bank, the properties, the people in the sensory world, you can see only as they were, not as they are. Therefore, what is the deduction we can make in Vedanta from that scientific finding? The scientific finding in physics is that you can never see another form as it is. You can see only what it was a few nanoseconds ago. What you deduce from that? That whatever you see is only the past. And therefore already scripted, already prarabdha. Therefore, the jnani simply accepts, that's all. Therefore, the verse says that the one who is not deluded into believing that he has a life of prosperity, for such a one, a life of adversity would also be a matter of great joy. Now, in the sense that when somebody is facing adversity in the sensory world and comes to the jnani, they will get the absolute relief that that is only a mirage. In what is that world appearing? In the unmanifest void. What is this unmanifest void? How do we perceive it? In Atmavichara, when a thought arises, you inquire it out. For whom is this thought? Who am I? When you inquire it out, fortunately, Bhagavan is saying, you hold yourself. You hold the attention to yourself. But there is some stage in Vichara, many people narrate that they are able to see a blank. And for some people, the blank is dark. For some people, the blank is light. For some people, it is having some fear. Now, that blank that you can perceive, we can take as the unmanifest void. So, what is there is actually unmanifest void. Actually, it's full of bliss. It is Anandamaya Kosha. The Anandamaya Kosha is everywhere. So, when you are in your Anandamaya Kosha, everything is full of bliss. That the unmanifest void is undifferentiated and it is full of bliss. But there also the kosha is there. Therefore, the experiencer is still there. And Bhagavan would not be satisfied with that. He would want us to inquire for whom is this unmanifest void. So what you see as all this multiplicity, all these parties, elections, winning, not winning, all that is a mirage in the unmanifest void. Just as in the searing heat, that water is seen, is the example given. So having understood that, the sensory experiences that you are having, the sensory world, the apparent middle class life or upper middle class life or rich life, is only by the prarabdha. Now there is no way you can run away from it because it's already scripted. So if, let's say, the organization you work for or the team you want to support, let's say a health organization, that is having tremendous difficulty, let's say. Now, that is no adversity to the one in jnana. Why are you worried? It is all in the unmanifest void. It is all Ananda Swarupa. You have to be in Ananda Swarupa. And what participation the body has to do, it cannot escape, isn't it? It cannot escape because it is part and parcel of that layer of living, which is the mirage. Your body itself is the mirage. So such a one participates in that dream or participates in that mirage only to awaken, only to share the awakening in one sense. Or the very presence of such a one only is for the awakening of the others, says Bhagavan. But that is the logical understanding also that we can take from this verse, that such a one exists only for the benefit of the others. And why do we create a samadhi? Because the jnani has drilled a hole, apparently, to reality. In this plane, he has drilled a hole. Therefore, the reality is shining through that. That's why the body of the jnani is not disposed of to fire or the earth. It is preserved. In what way that brings that reality into this is beyond us, but it is. When we go and sit in front of Bhagavan Samadhi, we are clearly shown that the world is a mirage and the Atma Swarupa is the reality. There, the apparent prosperity or adversity in the world hardly matters. Let's sit in Atma Vichara for 10 more minutes before we listen to Venkatesh ji. Ujjwal ji, you will be able to help us out. Thank you, sir.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks? Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jnanamulam Gurur Murti, Pujamulam Guru Padam, Mantramulam Guru Vakyam, Mokshamulam Guru Kripaha. Namo Ramana. As we all know, was one thing that we're all looking for morning, noon, and night is happiness. And somehow it seems far away. It's not close by at all. That's why I think we are all our lives we are looking for this happiness and looking for it here and there. But let's look at our, forget about for a moment, let's look at our life, our physical life that we're going through, and see what our experiences are. Like you're in a train and there's a beggar who comes to beg. What does he come to beg? For money, right? At that point of time, if you are sensitive enough, instead of being egoistic, at that point of time, you could think, thank God, I have it. I have the money. Thank God. Similarly, we have this Ramana Maharshi School of Blind children who come to perform with us. And when we look at they've got no eyes. Most of them cannot see, 80, 90% blindness. They just can't see. And at that point, when you look at them, we think, oh, thank God I have it. Similarly, you go, all of us, many of us would have gone to a burial ground or a Shamshan Ghat, and you see a dead body going into the chamber. And that's when you realize, oh my God, thank God I have it. So what is this thing that I have? And it seems to come only in a certain situations that adverse situations that we are able to think that we have it, but other times we think we don't have it. We think, oh, I think I'm not whole and complete. I'm looking for something outside which is not there within me. And you go through life on a daily basis. You want your promotions, you want your money, and you want your bank balances. And as we all know, we heard that this is a prarabdha that's working out through you, this body. But what happens is when it is happening, it is very, very real. And so what is Bhagavan saying in this paragraph? He says saying you're looking for that thou art. That's the three letters, three words. That thou art. So that is what we're continuously looking for. Some people are looking for it in money. Some people are looking in fame. Something out there. And finally, for what? For happiness. So let's try and see, now when you look at those three examples I gave you, have you ever thought and said, thank God I have that? Thank God I have eyes. Thank God I have money. Thank God, I have life today. I can sit and do self-enquiry. Did we ever thank God for that? Never. It's never occurred to us. It may have flashed in for a couple of seconds. It may have flashed, but then out you come out of the Shamshan Ghat, and the world catches you. Again, you're looking for that, looking for that. So one way, this we know the Brahmastra is the self-enquiry. Self-enquiry takes you directly in. But then many people say that we find it difficult when we are doing something, when you're walking, for example. How can I keep doing self-inquiry? There are objects coming in front of me. So we know that, the breath and the mind, the source of the breath and the source of the mind is the same. So breathe in. When you breathe in as if you're breathing in existence, consciousness, and bliss. As you breathe in, you're breathing as you're breathing existence, consciousness, bliss. You hold the breath as if you're holding the existence, consciousness, and bliss. And breathe out as if you're breathing out the body and mind. So repeat it. It's just another way, but it works. It works beautifully. You breathe in as if you're breathing in the existing consciousness and bliss. You hold as if you're holding the existence, consciousness, and bliss. And breathe out. As you breathe out, you're breathing out this body and mind and ego. You're breathing it out from the system. The more and more you practice this, like you practice self-inquiry. Whenever you have a thought, you inquire. Breath is a very powerful tool that Bhagwan has given us. Very, very powerful. To the point where even when we are asleep, see, normally what would happen, if you really believe it, the mind and the breath go hand in hand. But what Bhagwan does when we are in deep sleep, though the mind is shut, he keeps the breathing going. What a great boon Bhagwan has given us. Otherwise, if the mind would have gone shut, the breath also should have actually gone shut. But because then the family feel you're dead and gone and they will take you to the burial grounds, he keeps the breath going all the time. So breath is a very, very, very powerful tool. So the trick about all this sadhanas is for what? It stopped being in that, continuously looking out and looking for that, for it here. Because why? Because each of us is whole and complete. We actually lack nothing. If you don't think about your 3 meals, if you don't think, if you have clothes on your body, and if you have a house to live in, you are in the 3 to 4% of the universe. You are the most blessed among the people in the universe, and we forget that. And we are looking for happiness outside all the time, looking for happiness here, there, everywhere, and we don't get happiness. Because why? Our nature is happiness. So that's what Bhagavan is trying to say. Stop focusing on that and focus on thou. When you do self-inquiry, you are with that thou, you are with that I-ness, you are with that isness, that I amness, you are with that all the time. The more you are with that, you'll be closer to God. Then what happens? You you'll stop being in the that, you'll stop and always be in the thou, and then this that thou art will become a reality, because you will be continuously happy. You will be in the now, you will be absolutely happy all the time, because you are whole and complete. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana, sir. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama, they are available for chanting. We'll all sit in self-inquiry. Namo Ramana, Vaibhavji, Namo Ramana, Pratnama.
नमो रमण भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितम् श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्विमात्रम् भुवनं समस्तम् गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः ॐ महोजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दराय तपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीन मानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रदिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ च्यूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूणिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजतचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीषोणाचलनिर्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिवृन्देन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ ऋच्चान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत देव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहयशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः ऋन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. Thank you, Vaibhuji. Thank you, Pratnama. Thank you, Venkatesh ji.